Oh hey, it's Emily. Today I'm going to be doing a tag video. So Kim from Expedition Through Pages, I adore her. I will link her channel below. I absolutely love her videos. And she tagged me in this tag video quite a while ago. And I just am now getting around to filming it, so sorry about that, Kim. This is a super fun tag. This is the spoiler tag. I've got the questions on my phone here, so that's why I'll be looking down. And it's just a fun tag video, just talking about and exploring what it is to be a spoiler, or what it means for something to be a spoiler, and just some of the conversations that happen around that. So let's just jump right in. The first question is, what do you consider a spoiler? And this can be kind of a hard question to answer. So sometimes I can feel like, what the dust jacket talks about, kind of the setup, the fundamental key elements that are the setup of the novel aren't a spoiler, generally speaking. But sometimes dust jackets can give away things through up to half the book. And sometimes you can get far into the book before you're beyond what the initial setup talked about on the dust jacket encompasses. So that can be kind of a difficult benchmark to use. But generally speaking, I like to know the setup of a book and kind of use what's on the dust jacket as a guide for what to consider setup when I'm talking about it, versus what to leave out. Sometimes if I have already read a book and I can get a gauge for how far into the book that information covers, there might be times where, as I'm reviewing a book and I can reflect on that, I might talk about less than what the dust jacket talks about, because I feel like it was fun to, or it would be fun to maybe discover that throughout the book. So that's kind of a weird, rambly answer, but yeah. Second question is, does the genre you're reading impact what you consider to be a spoiler? So maybe sometimes. I feel like people get most up in arms about spoilers, especially when it comes to thrillers, mysteries, where part of the point of the book is to have some twists and turns and some things that are fun to maybe guess and not know beforehand, and you have that unravel for you. So maybe, I don't know, I don't read a ton of mysteries and thrillers, so I tend to be less bothered by something in a fantasy or sci-fi book being a little bit of that being spoiled. So maybe there might be a slightly different threshold for some things about mysteries and thrillers where I don't want to know. I want to know a few things about the basic premise and maybe some of the tropes, like some of the predominant tropes that might be used, just to see if I kind of like this setup, and then otherwise just let the author take me for a ride. Maybe. But that's a difficult one to answer. So the third question is, all of the best bits are in the trailer. Sometimes the synopsis can be too detailed, which I did reference before. Do you research books prior to reading them, or do you go in blind? I don't tend to go in blind. I tend to want to at least have somewhat of an idea of what I'm getting into, and at least at a high level at the very least, but sometimes I like knowing the basic setup, some of the key tropes, maybe some themes that are explored, because I enjoy kind of being able to narrow down and make sure that what I'm picking up I have a pretty decent chance of enjoying, outside of it just being something that's hyped so I want to pick it up. I want to know a little bit more about it, typically, before I pick something up. But the fourth question is that sometimes the introduction or translator's notes can spoil the ending, especially for classics. Has this ever happened to you? I'm not a huge classics reader. I'm sure it has at some point. Maybe it has, but not that recall. There's not one huge instance I remember of being upset about being spoiled for something by reading kind of an introduction or something that discusses the importance of the text and says some key events from the book as a way to talk about that. Yeah, I think that probably generally happens more in classics, and as I said, as someone who doesn't read a ton of classics, that doesn't happen a lot. I also, sometimes they don't include those in audiobooks, which is how I listen to most things, but it's been a while since I've read a classic. So maybe it happened in high school, but I don't ever remember being upset about being spoiled for something that was in an introduction. The fifth question is, name a time somebody has spoiled a novel for you. And I don't know. I feel like I've been pretty good about avoiding information about a book that I'm super excited about. So I don't remember a time actually where I've been super upset because a book I was excited about was spoiled. Or even just in general. Like, maybe not even one I was excited about. And I feel like, especially recently, in recent years, most of the information that I get about books comes from booktubers. And I feel like booktubers do, in general, at least the ones that I've followed, tend to do a pretty good job specifying when they're going to talk about what they consider spoilers and making sure that they label that and give a warning so I can either skip over that, or if I'm looking for that, then I can keep going. But I feel like booktubers are pretty good about that. So there's not a time that sticks out to me that I've been spoiled for something. The sixth question is, have you ever spoiled a novel for somebody else? And I hope not. I don't think I have. And I'm trying to think of a time if there's ever been a situation where someone has specifically asked me to spoil something to see whether or not they want to keep reading or something. I don't think that's ever happened. I hope I haven't spoiled something as I've been talking about it on my channel. So hopefully not. The eighth question is, when reviewing either spoiler free, does this limit your ability to discuss? And I do try to be spoiler free when I'm reviewing books. There have been some exceptions, but I've tried to follow the lead of being very clear if I go into what I consider spoiler territory and I know that I'm talking about way more than is covered in the dust jacket or what seems to be generally common knowledge about some things that happen in a book or something. I try to make it very clear, even if I'm talking about older books. So for example, I read the Lord of the Rings series for the first time earlier this year, and I did do a vlog and wanted to talk about some spoilers. And even though it's a classic that many people have read, I still wanted to make sure to separate that out, or at least specify and make it clear that I was talking about spoilers, just in case someone didn't want that. So yeah, I try to be very clear if I do ever go into detail. Sometimes I want to. Sometimes you really want to get something off your chest and you really want to talk about something. And especially for books that you know many people have read, and there might be some reaction to that or some conversations that can happen with that. Sometimes it's fun to talk about spoilers because it does limit some things that I might want to say or otherwise would say about books that I'm reading, because I don't want to spoil, and I hope that what I do is get people excited to read it. So sometimes it does limit what I say or what I feel like I can talk about, but I hope that the general feeling about a book can still come through, even if I can't talk about some of the details that I might if I included a spoiler section. Anyway. And yeah, the last question is to tag some people. So I will see if I can link some people below. I'm blanking right now on who I might specifically want to tag, but I'll either tag some people below or just say that anyone who sees this who wants to do it is tagged. So thank you so much for tagging me, Kim. It's always fun to talk about spoilers and what people consider spoilers. and some other conversations that can come up around that, like whether some trigger warnings are spoilers, for example, because sometimes that can be incredibly important to know going into a book. So sometimes it's good to know some very specific details about a book if it might not be something you want to read about, or maybe you know it's something you love to read about, you know. So always an interesting conversation. But thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out Kim's channel below, and be sure to subscribe for more bookish content. I will also leave my Twitter and Instagram down below. That's where I like to hang out. And I will also leave more information about how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement. And I will see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.